and welcome back to Algebra 1. Our goal for today is to continue with our factoring completely using GCF and chart method. But how do we go to our chart if our original problem only has 3 terms called a trinomial, which totally changes our approach before we get to the actual chart? Because remember, our chart has 4 little cubby holes, so we need 4 terms, not 3 or 2 or 7, right? We need 4 individual terms in our problem to be able to use that chart method. So our goal for today, if I wanted to prepare my problem so that it is ready to go to the chart, right? So we're not going to go through the whole factoring process today. We're just going to learn the process of how to take something that has 3 terms, called a trinomial, and get it to something that has 4 terms called a quadrinomial, right? And that's one of the hardest parts about these factoring problems. I need 1, 2, 3, 4 terms before I'm ready to go to my chart. So how do we take this one that has only 3 and write it as an equivalent expression, but with 4 terms? And the way to do that is to take this middle term and break it up into 2 terms that if we were to add them up, right, because they're like terms, right, some amount of r plus some amount of r, that still gives us negative 2r, but in a special way, right? We can't just break it up however we want it. We have to break it up in a special way that when we actually combine them, it gets us back up here to this middle term so that we have an equivalent math problem in a special way that goes to our chart. Right? So our goal for today, how do we take a trinomial and make it a quadrinomial so that we can go to our chart to factor? And all we're doing is the process of taking it from 3 terms to 4 for a day, and then we'll start to look at actually factoring it from there later on. All right, so what you want to do in your notebook for today is to fold your paper down the middle, tall and skinny, in a hot dog bun fold. You're going to crease it, and then you're going to unfold it so that you have a fold mark so that you have 2 sides. One side for our steps of work, and the other side that's our scratch that helps us do this task of going from 3 terms to 4 terms. All right, so here's this is my hot dog bun fold right there. Okay, so problem number 1, we want to write that expression r squared minus 2r minus 3, which is right now a quadratic trinomial. We want to take it and write it as an equivalent quadratic quadrinomial by breaking up that negative 2r, but in a specific way. All right, so we're taking just this middle term and splitting it. So we're still going to have r squared up here, and we're still going to have this negative 3 back here. And we want to know in this middle, our terms that just have r to the first, what should those look like? And the way that we do that is we take what's called our leading coefficient, right, which is this, right now is a 1 out here, and we multiply it by our constant term. And we take those 2 numbers. So 1 times negative 3, right? So we need factors of that number, right? So 1 times negative 3, okay? So it's always the leading coefficient and the number by itself. I multiply those together. Now I need factors of negative 3 that when I add them up, right? This means to add them up. I get this middle number. I get this whatever's here in the middle. In this case, of negative 2. We're looking for a magic combination that meets those 2 rules. So for factors of 3, meaning 2 numbers I can multiply to give me 3, I only really have this option, right? 1 times 3 gives me 3. However, it needs to be a negative 3. So please remember your rule for multiplying is when I multiply, my signs are different. I get a negative. So option 1 would be this, negative 1 times 3. And our other option would be 1 times negative 3. Those are our only options of things I can multiply to get to negative 3. So I'm looking for the combination that when I add those digits up, it gives me a negative 2. All right, so negative 1 plus 3 would actually give us a positive 2 over here, right? So that one fails. That's not the combo that's going to work. A 1 plus negative 3 would give us this negative 2. That's our magic combination. This is our combo we need to use right here in the middle. All right, so instead of negative 2r, we're going to call it 1r and negative 3r, right? So plus 1r and a minus 3r. And I think if we understand, if we combined our like terms here, if we did 1 minus 3r, we would be back up here to this negative 2r. And now we have something equivalent to the original problem in a format that will help us go to our box or our chart to help us factor, right? Box number 1, box number 2, box number 3, box number 4, and we could factor from there. All right, that's our goal for today, though. Just go from 3 to 4, because I think from that point down, we're doing pretty well with going to our chart and factoring it from there. All right, so let's try another one. Number 2. We have a 3n to the second plus an 11n plus 6. All right, no GCF here, so nothing to factor out first. We still would be looking for that. All right, I'm going to mention that here. So no GCF to pull out. So let's go to our scratch. We take our leading coefficient number of 3, and we multiply it by this constant term, right? 3 times 6. All right, so we need factors of 18. That when we add them up gives us this middle one, right? We're going to break up that 11n. So we need a sum of 11. All right, so now I start to build sort of a guess and check chart here, right? I could do a 1 times 18. I could do a 2 times 9. I could do a 3 times 6, right? I'm just trying to list. And once I find the one that works, I can stop, all right? I should be guessing and checking over here until I find the magic combination. Now, the other thing that I could do when I want a positive number up top is positive times positive gives me this positive, but so does negative times negative. So negative 1 times negative 8 would be a possibility. Negative 2 times negative 9, right, would be a possibility. Negative 3 times negative 6 would be a possibility. Again, once I find the one that works, I don't have to keep going, but I do have to think about all the possible scenarios. So be careful. When this is positive, I have 2 things I can think about. Positive times positive and negative times negative. All right, I'm looking for the one that when I add these digits, right, when I add them up, do I get 11? So 1 plus 18, that's 19. That doesn't work, right? 2 plus 9, ooh, that's our magic comp. This is the one that's going to work. So I don't need any of these other ones, right? I could have stopped when I got to the magic amount of 2 and 9. So we're going to take this 11n, and we're going to make it 2n and 9n. All right, we're splitting it up in a special way, right? We're not doing any combination that gets us there. Right, you can't do like 6 and 5. That doesn't work. It has to be the combination that meets this criteria. So be careful. And so we still have this 3n squared. That was a positive 2, so plus, and then we still have the plus 6. And now we would be ready to go to our chart. Box 1, box 2, box 3, box 4. And that's our goal for today. Get it from 3 to 4. All right, so let's try another one. Number 3. M squared minus m minus 12. There's no GCF to pull out first. All right, so let's go to our scratch side here. All right, leading coefficient here is a 1. So 1 times negative 12. 1 times negative 12. But we need factors of negative 12. That add up to our middle thing here of negative 1. All right, so when we add our digits, we need a negative 1. All right, we need a negative here, which means we're going to have a positive times a negative. All right, so things like 1 times negative 12 or negative 1 times 12. 2 times a negative 6, a negative 2 times 6, right? 3 times negative 4, or a negative 3 times 4, right? One has to be positive, one has to be negative, so that when we multiply, we would end up with a negative up top. All right, so again, as soon as I know the combination over here, I can stop listing. Right? I'm just doing guess and check. So if I know the answer right away, I don't have to list these all out. Right? If I'm not sure, start listing them all out and check them to see which one works. All right, 1 plus negative 12, that would give us a negative 11. That's a fail. This one would give us a positive 11. That's a fail. All right, this one would give us a negative 4. All right, we're getting closer, but it's still a fail. This one would give us a positive 4. All right, down here, 3 and negative 4, that would give us a negative 1. That's our magic one that works. This one down here would have given us a positive 1, right? That one doesn't work. So here's our magic combination to break up that negative 1m. All right, so we're taking this negative 1m, and we're going to call it positive 3m, right, plus or positive 3m, and minus 4m. Right? I want to break up negative 1m, but in a special way that meets the criteria over there, so be careful. All right, we still have this m squared, and we still have this minus 12. And then boom, 1, 2, 3, 4 things for our chart. We would be ready to factor from there. All right, so one more. We still need to look for GCF, so I want to look at one like that. since all the other ones didn't have GCFs this time. All right, 4k squared minus 10k plus 6. 4, negative 10, and 6 all have a common factor of 2. Right, so I pulled that out. K squared, k, no k, so I can't pull out the k. And then I still have to think about what's left over. All right, 4k squared would give us a 2k squared left over. Negative 10k divided by 2 would give us a minus 5k. And 6 divided by 2 would give us a positive 3. All right, this factor is done, right? We would normally bring that down here below our chart, right? It's done. But we still need to take this leftover trinomial and break up this middle term so we have a quadrinomial, right? So we're going to start this 2 out front. We need to take this thing that has 3 terms and make it 4, all right? So the way that this works, this 2 is now our leading coefficient. This 3 is now our constant term. That's what we need to use over here. So 2 times 3, or we need factors of 6 that give us that middle number of negative 5 when we add them up. All right, guess and check time. All right, 1 times 6, negative 1 times 6, 2 times 3, negative 6, and then negative 2 times negative 3 would be our options here. All right, remember, a positive times a positive and a negative times a negative would give us a positive result up there. All right, 1 and 6 is 7. That's a fail. This one would be negative 7. This is 5. So down here. All right, that's our good one. All right, so we're going to take this negative 5k. We're going to call it negative 2k. Don't forget the variable k, right? We're taking this and we're splitting it apart into 2 individual pieces. And then a minus 3k. And then we still have this plus 3. And we still have this 2k squared. And now, boom, 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 we have our 4 things that we would take to our chart from there. All right, I hope that helps you attack your work for today. I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.